everyone, Ryan Young, Combat Jiu-Jitsu, and I hope you're doing well. So I'm going to continue on the series of why people quit. And I always try to end each particular video with how you can remedy that situation. So I'm going to combine two of the reasons in this one video. The first reason is the I can't mentality. And the second reason is you're great at making excuses. So the first thing with regard to I can't. Now, if you ask any of the kids in my kids' classes, there is one word that I do not let them say, and that is the word can't, right? So for us in the kids' class, in the teenage class, that is the C word. The C word is with an A, not with another vowel. So, and if they do say it, it's 20 push-ups. Now, if they don't stand up in base, it's only 10, right? So it just goes to show how important not saying the word can't is. Now, a lot of times they'll do something and then they can't do it. They say, oh, I can't do this. And I'll walk up and I'll go, what did you say? I'm failing to be able to do this. So, they have to really think about it. It's kind of funny and all that. And then every kid that comes in, I ask the other kids, all right, I give them a little primer. What happens if you don't stand up in base now that you know how to do it? And what is the word you can't use? And I have to say, okay, all you guys have a waiver. What's the word that you cannot say? And they'll say can't. Because that word alone, just like no, right? When I was a little kid, when I was a baby, my mom actually told me as I got older and I started to have kids of my own, she says, one thing I don't want you to ever do is tell your child no. Instead, say, don't do that. Because if you say no, that it kind of gives some subconscious negative connotations. And the same thing as the word can't. If you always put that word can't in their mind, then they'll start using it and then they'll really not be able to do things. Because if somebody can do it, if another human can do something, you can pretty much bet that you'll probably be able to do it. Now I say probably because look, I'll never be able to slam dunk a basketball. Okay, fine. I get that I will not be able to slam dunk a basketball. But I never say the word can't because there's always a way, right? And the same thing with jiu-jitsu. If you're in that mindset where you find that you can't do something, that's a limiting belief. Go ahead and change that. Just think to yourself, okay, at this moment, I'm not able to do that, but what do I need to do it? Now, sometimes it's just a matter of just changing your angle and that opens everything up for you. But if you say you can't do it, you're automatically making that decision that at that particular point in time, I cannot do this and I will not do it. And that's the other part that goes with it. If you cannot, you will not. So if you take that can't out of your vocabulary and instead look for solutions, then you'll go so far with this. Because there are so many things that jiu-jitsu has to offer that those of us that have been doing it for a long time realize, right? And one thing that I can kind of think of, just kind of a side story here, Master Dave and I were down in Arizona visiting our affiliate down there. It's called Defense Labs and it's run by Tony Torres. So if you're ever in Sierra Vista, Arizona, you want to pay him a visit. So he'll teach you the modules that we're going through, that we go through with our own students. So anyway, side note. So we were walking to grab some coffee because believe it or not, that time we were there were no Ubers and there were no Lyfts, no Lyft drivers around to take us to grab some coffee. So we had to hoof it there. So as we're walking, it's about a 1.5 mile walk, we got to talking. And I asked him, I said, Dave, I said, knowing all the injuries that you have, as a result of jiu-jitsu, would you do it again? Definitely. He didn't even pause to think about it. He says, look, here's the way I look at it. All the injuries that I've had, he's had multiple knee surgeries. He's had, he's got, his shoulders are tore up. He says, the benefits that I got from jiu-jitsu are so great that these injuries are really just my price for admission. I would do it all over again, even knowing that I might get even worse injuries. On the other hand, when you have somebody brand new, you don't ever tell them that. Right? I don't ever share with them what my injuries were as a result of jiu-jitsu, right? A little bit of cauliflower ear, I've torn that muscle in my neck or strained it that allows you to stretch or look down or look either way. I've done that so many times. I remember having to drive like this and talk to people like that. I've had 2 knee surgeries. I've had a bunch of stuff. So if I told people from the get-go what kind of injuries I had, they'd be gone, right? Which then leads to the next part. The excuses. Oh yeah, Ryan, he's had a ton of injuries. I don't want to have that happen to me. So, just by saying that, it's in the back of their head, and then what do they then say? I can't do it. I can't do this, right? Or somebody's smashing them and they're having a hard time breathing, they tap, they go, oh man, I just can't survive under there. It's just too much. What'll happen is they'll keep saying I can't. They'll keep making the excuses. Oh, because I'm a skinny guy, right? Look back at the Dan Barnes video, the one how one guy got ripped, right? If you look at the guy, his beginning picture, marathon runner, skinny, right? Tall. He's probably about 6'2", 6'3", probably weighed about $175, maybe $180, and maybe less than that. Very unaccompanied to what we do. If he had that can't mentality, he'd have been gone a long time ago. But since he doesn't have that can't mentality, he is able to get to where he is, and he will continue progressing. I am convinced jiu-jitsu is part of his life. But it all starts with having the right attitude. So if you're having a hard time and you're thinking, I'm gonna quit, and can't is in your vocabulary, you may think it's not, but go ahead and train and get to the point where you're under pressure and you tap, what happened? Oh, I can't get out of your guard. Or I can't get out when you're on my back. Or I can't pass your guard. Or I just can't get your arm, right? That must all sound familiar to you. Stuff that you've said before. If you get that word can't out of your vocabulary, you will then stop making excuses. And if you stop making excuses, you won't ever quit. Jiu-jitsu will be in your life for the rest of your life. It goes back to that conversation with Dave that I had. You know, Dave's 55, I'm 50. He's been doing a little over 30 years. I've been doing almost for 30 years. Other than our marriages, that's the constant in our lives. We would not ever change it. I mean, you can't ever change it really, but a lot of people look back, if I could do something different. A lot of stuff that have to do with my career, yeah, I'd have done differently. But with regard to jiu-jitsu, no, right? Even though I switched schools, I switched out of RICKSON school, right? I could look back and say, I wish I didn't do it, but I wouldn't have ended up with Dave. I've known Dave from before that, but still, I wouldn't have ended up with Dave if I myself were a RICKSON Gracie black belt. And I like the way things turned out, right? If I weren't where I am, if I hadn't gone on the path that I had gone on, I wouldn't be talking to you today and going over all this stuff. All this that I'm doing is because of my relationship with Dave, my friendship, and he being my master. For you, think about yourself, really look inside yourself. And if you're on the verge of quitting, ask yourself, do I have a quit mentality? Do I say I can't? And do I make excuses? In addition to all the other videos I've done. And there'll be a couple more as time goes on as well. So that's all I got for you. Oh, now as far as how you remedy it, just stop saying the word. And if you say it, catch yourself. And what you do is just tell other people, tell your training partners, you know what? I'm trying to get myself out of this limiting belief of saying the word can't and giving excuses. So if I do it, please call me on it. And believe me, they will call you on it. They will give you so much crap about it, you know. It'll be a running joke thing. And that's fine, because when you do that, it makes light of it and you get past it. And you're gonna look back on this 3-5 years from now and you're gonna, wow, you know, that was me before. I almost quit a few years ago, right? And there's one thing with me, I never almost quit. I've stopped training, but in my mind, I never quit. So to prevent yourself from making excuses is an easy thing to do. And it gets easier the more times you do it. So you're gonna have to break that habit. So one way that you stop is you just learn to accept responsibility. If I end up not being able to pass your guard, it's not that I can't do it. It's because my learning on how to do it and my execution or my repetitions is insufficient. So go back to your coach, your professor, your master, whatever, and ask them, I am having trouble passing John's guard. Would you mind watching me try to pass his guard and kind of telling me what I need to do, right? And don't expect 5 different things that you need to do. Just take one, right? Because maybe you're doing 8 things right now and you might need 12. But if you go from 9 to 12 right away, you're not gonna remember 9 to 12. So just say, you know, just give me one thing. So then you start working on it and then you get a little bit further, you stop. Professor, can you help me here? I did what you did, I'm still doing it, but I'm still not getting past. Oh, that's because you need to do this now. And if you add that back in, you'll be able to do it. And once you conquer that, then you'll know that there's no longer any excuses. If you are not able to do something, then you just need to look back and say, what am I missing? And once you know what you're missing, then that makes everything easier. And then you'll get out of the whole practice of giving excuses, because you'll know that I'm responsible for my own jiu-jitsu and I will be able to figure that solution out. I just need the help of either a peer or an instructor or a professor. Let's see if that can help you. And if it does, go ahead and let me know. Don't forget, check out the Patreon channel. A lot of you are. We're starting to get more and more people on it. And we're on our way to 10,000 subscribers. When we get to 10,000 subscribers, Russ is gonna put together a surprise for you guys, and it's gonna be good. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button if you do, and we'll see you next time. Happy training. Bye-bye now.